Hi everyone, I'm your host, Nicole Wood. Welcome to Scicomm Monday. Today we're going to be talking to you live from the Ecuadorian Cloud Forest. But for all of you who are new to Scicomm Monday, just feel free to send in your questions at any time, and we'll make sure that we do our best to answer them. If we don't get to all of them during the broadcast, feel free to tweet us afterwards at our respective handles. So, as I said, I'm your host, Nicole Wood. You could either reach me at Scicomm Monday or at Wildlife BioGal. And today's guest is Nancy Miorelli. She's currently in the middle of the Ecuadorian jungle, and you can reach her at SciBugs. So with that, I'd just like to say, Nancy, welcome to the broadcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So why don't you give everyone a little bit of background as to your academic history to kind of let us know, like, how did you get to where you are in the middle of the jungle right now?
Yeah, okay. So it's kind of a long story. I guess it started because I grew up on a one-lane dirt road in the middle of Connecticut, and my parents threw me outside every day till dinner, and I couldn't see things that were far away, so I just kind of was naturally interested in bugs. And then I kind of knew that I wanted to be in biology. I got my undergraduate degree from Union College in biology, and it was then that I decided to go into insects for two reasons. One, because I had gone to Australia and I had a term abroad there, and when I got back from my term abroad, I realized I had like one picture of a kangaroo and like 700 bazillion pictures of insects. And then when I was finishing my undergrad, I did a project studying birds, and I realized I hated birds and was really excited to jump in all the insect projects. So I was like, oh, maybe I should go for my degree in entomology. And so I got my master's degree in entomology from the University of Georgia. I focused kind of more on education. My thesis was about integrated pest management. Things that I'm actually more interested in are like, why are bugs, especially butterflies, shiny? And I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life other than I like Scicomm and I like communication and I like big bugs. So I emailed the lodge. I'm at the Maki Picuna Eco Lodge in the Cloud Forest of Ecuador, and was like, how would you like an entomologist for a while? And they were like, that's awesome. So that's how I ended up here.
Awesome. Well, we already had a question come in from Janet Ng Bio, one of our previous guests on Scicomm Monday, and she was asking, does she hear any cicadas in the background? So it sounds like we can hear something. So what is it that we're hearing back there?
Yeah, you are hearing the cicadas. They are so loud right now. I actually have one with me that I found in my boot this morning. Like, living in the jungle is interesting. Anyway, so this is the creature that is like making all of the sounds. This one's lazy because I've been handling him a lot today, but so here he is. Yeah, they're very pretty, and they have like this nice blue kind of underneath the wing. But yeah, so this is a Zamara species cicada, and they are really loud. In fact, this genus can make sound up to 120 decibels, which is pretty much at the point of possibly causing hearing damage. And when I have them, like sometimes we get some that are particularly vocal when we have the tourists, and I literally have to shout over it if it's buzzing in my hands because they're so loud. So yes, you are hearing cicadas. It is currently their season.
Wow, yeah, because I mean, if I can hear it clearly through my headphones here, it's got to be extremely loud there.
Yeah, like I'm talking to my Bluetooth headphones, so like my mic is like right by my mouth. My mic is right here. Those cicadas are like in the trees, like up there somewhere. They're singing from up there somewhere, and like it's just how loud they are. So yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, we had Fist for Brains.
I'm in the jungle, like not lying.
Yeah, we had Fist for Brains, excuse me, just a message in. He's like, oh, so that's how you say cicadas outside of Australia. So we're going to have to get him to go on Twitter and let us know how folks in Australia say cicadas. Because, yeah, it's interesting to see how different people say things differently around the world. So,
yeah, I think they say, like, cicadas is how they say it. Yeah. We get a lot of people here from all over the world at the lodge, and so sometimes we'll just say something, and I'll be like, what? like if people in Britain use the French-ish word for eggplant, they don't call it eggplant. It begins with a, I don't know, B or something. It's weird. And I was like, what are you even talking about?
Interesting. So. Yeah, Fist for Brains did say that's exactly how they say it. So excellent job with picking up on your Australian accent with the guest there.
Yeah. Cicadas.
So to let people kind of know where you're at, I'm going to throw up a little bit of map because first of all, a lot of times people don't necessarily know where different countries are. So Ecuador, for anybody who doesn't know, is down in South America. And I've got the dot showing about where Quito is. Am I saying that right, Quito? Quito. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's about approximately where you are right now for everyone to see. So It is like definitely down in the middle of, is it a jungle or do you call it cloud forest? Like, which is more the proper term to use?
It depends on who you ask. So if you would like a biological definition, a forest is anything that has like a very distinct canopy, and you can easily walk through the trees on the forest floor. You don't need a machete. Here, you definitely need a machete to get through. So biologically, you'd be considered more of a jungle. In Ecuador, when they talk about it, they talk about this area as the cloud forest, and they call the Amazon or the lowlands the jungle or selva. So there's not like a good answer. It just kind of depends on how you want to talk about it. This area is known for being a cloud forest, and this area is actually really interesting because it's not normal for them to be jungly. So I have not been to Costa Rica, but I have heard that people have, and they're like, oh yeah, you can just like walk underneath the canopy, and there's like not that much. You don't need a machete to get through it. But because we're here in the mountains, we have really rich volcanic soil. So normally rainforests are nutrient poor. Ours is relatively not nutrient poor because of the volcanic soils. But also we get a lot of turnover because there's landslides that just happen all of the time because we're like literally growing a forest on the side of a mountain. So those two factors combined make it so you can promote more undergrowth and have kind of more of a jungly feel, even though in this elevation, traditionally, it is a cloud forest. There are no clean answers in ecology.
No, there never is. It always seems like, there's some regional differences with how people phrase things. It's, I know we argue back and forth in the invasive species field, like what actually makes an invasive species and all the different terminology that we use. So it's like something that seems like it should be straightforward. You can get a lot of differing slight variations to it. So
yeah.
So how do you guys get around when you're there? Is it like easy to get into town? Like, what's the ways that you guys travel for getting around to spot to spot? Like, are you having to hike through there? Like, how remote is this, preserve that you're on?
Okay, so you can walk to the nearest. I'll use the word village, like not in a derogatory sense. It's just like a small community of people that has maybe 30 families in it. You can walk down there. There is a spot for internet. You pay the nice shopkeeper $1 for the Wi-Fi password if it works that day, because like rain is a thing that stops internet from working. And they have like a little convenience store with like ice cream. You can get rain boots if you need it, and you can get like chicken and a couple other like small things like that. That's about an hour walk. I have a motorbike, so it takes about 15 minutes to drive down there on the motorbike. I mean, as you can imagine, the dirt roads are not particularly motorbike friendly, and you do have to drive through a river at one point, so kind of inconvenient. So the next town over is Nanigal, and you actually end up on like paved roads for that one. And they have like a hardware store and a pharmacy and a clinic, so it's like, kind of basic stuff there. 45 minutes in the other direction on the motorbike is the bigger town called Nanigalito, and then you can buy like clothes there and like more shoppies. There's a couple restaurants, and then it's an hour and a half to Quito after that. It's about an hour and a half from here to the city of Quito. And I normally take the motorbike to the big town Nanigalito and then get on the bus, because the bus is like $1 an hour for transport. So you just get on the bus and you get dropped off, and then you're in Quito. So it's not far. It's not that far from the main city. So it's pretty amazing how you can go from like a metropolitan normal city to literally the middle of nowhere in just an hour and a half.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that always kind of surprises us with different areas is how close some amazing ecosystems are to actual towns.
Yeah.
So why don't
you... And a lot of the people here don't really realize what we have here either. So I talk to people in Quito all the time, like, you can see the spectacled bear here, like, come by sometime. They're like, I had no idea, it was so close. So.
Yeah, if I remember right, wasn't the spectacled bear on the 2017 March Mammal Madness? I believe so. It did pretty well. I think it was ranked number 1 in its initial region. So that would be really neat to see. Like, have you been able to see it live there?
Yeah. I actually did some live streams through my Facebook when I had enough data to actually do it. But we have a fruit here called pache, and in its season, the bears come down from the primary forest and feed on it. Normally, they're very solitary, but just because this food source is so in abundance, just like the grizzly bears with the salmon, we get spectacled bears with this pache fruit, which is related to avocados but looks more like an olive, and I think it doesn't taste very good. Anyway, but during their season, you can go out for an hour and a half and see 7 to 10 bears. Like, that's normal during our season. And they're just, like, in trees, like, breaking branches, eating fruit. Like, I'm a bug person, but the bears are pretty cool.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm currently working with swans, but I'm still enjoying, many other different species. I think that's the one thing, like, I find with a lot of different scientists is while their species of study that they have is, maybe like in a select area, we still all usually enjoy many other different species and, always like going and watching them.
Yeah. I think cuttlefish and octopuses are that for me, and then reptiles, especially snakes. So if I think I had to pick something besides insects, it would either be like cephalopods or snakes.
I think those are some pretty good choices, and there's some really neat scientists out there that do some cool work with that on Scicomm. And speaking of Scicomm, you've been known for the whole Facebook hashtag. Can you tell us a little bit how that got started and what that is about? And
yeah, so my friend Miles actually started this, and he, like, we're just kind of like crazy entomologists. We all kind of know each other, and he was like, we should do a face bug off. And it was just a thing in the middle of the summer, like, try and find a bug, put a big bug on your face, and it was kind of like a little mini competition, I guess, to see who could get bugs on their face, what bugs, how big. And then I never got bored of it, mainly because I still had access to insects when I was at the University of Georgia, because we had the exotic insect zoo. And then I moved out to the jungle, and I was like, I can still put bugs in my face, and they're so big here. Like, I can take a picture of a beetle, but you don't really get how big it is until I'll shove it on my face. And at some point, like, there's some moths here that if I put them on my hand, they're bigger than my hand, so you still can't even tell how big they are. So I was like, oh, I can put them on my face, and that just kind of gives a perspective. And then I realized those got shared a lot and retweeted a lot, and it's like, well, I can do one step better. I can not only just have a bug on my face because I think it's fun, but I can start adding biology about these insects, or I can start talking about things that are threatening them, or kind of just little tidbits. And then those little tidbits will, like, get out there. So that's kind of how it evolved.
Great. Yeah, because I think it's such a great visual medium to interact with audiences. Like they can really key in on that. It's kind of hard for me to put a swan on my face and do it safely.
Right.
But here, like you're making bugs seem, less scary, because so many people are scared of them because they just look so different. People think of them as these creepy, crawly, icky things when actually they're really amazing creatures, and you're helping, I think, them to be able to get over their fear of bugs by doing this.
That's what I found too. Like people come into the lodge all the time, like terrified of insects or like they don't like them. But I think just having someone so calm around them and know which ones that you can pick up relatively safely, and if I put it on my face, like I'm not going to put anything that can really do any serious damage to me on my face. Like the one that I did was there was this brightly colored bug, and I knew that it smelled bad, but I didn't realize that, like, because it just stains your hands and it smells bad. But apparently, when it gets onto your sensitive like face skin, it like chemically burns your nose and turns your nose orange for 4 days. And that was like the extent of anything that's ever happened to me. And it wasn't even that big of a deal. Like I just took a picture. Like this is hilarious. Like I got burnt by a bug and like my nose is orange for 4 days before Christmas. Perfect.
Yeah.
So I think just having them on my face too just shows like that they're not as dangerous as people think they are.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because like I like how you even went outside of bugs and were putting gastropods on your face. Like there's the one of you with a snail. It makes you look like you have this huge nose on your face. So.
Yeah. That's even a small one here. That is actually really interesting because it sparked a whole conversation. So the locals here, so that was a small snail. They're about that big, but the big snails here get about that big. Like they're large, and the people eat them. But there's also this idea that the snail slime is good for your skin. And then, so when I put that one on Real Scientist, someone else mentioned like, oh yeah, so people are studying snail slime. It's an antibacterial. And then so it was really cool because we ended up getting this discussion from like, I have a snail on my face and it's funny to local uses of this animal to, it's actually being scientifically researched and has some credit. It has some merit. And now people are trying to like are trying to copy like snail slime to go out and like cosmetics and stuff as like anti-aging and good for your skin stuff.
Yeah, we had a question come in. I believe it was from Istabeta Bug. I could have gotten the handle name wrong, but was asking how slimy was that snail when you put it on your face?
Oh, Isa. Hi, Isa. It's more like egg white consistency, I guess. It's not like super slimy. It's kind of like sticky, which is why it could actually like stick on my nose. It doesn't wash out of things though. So I have found one of the big snails, and usually when I find them, I save them so I can bring them down to the tourists because like they're huge, right? They're the biggest snail that they've ever seen. And I just brought it into my room because I was like, oh, I have to get something from my room, and then like absent-mindedly just like plopped it on top of my tablet cover. I don't think most people normally drop giant snails on their tablet cover, but I thought that was the perfect place to put it. And I still have like a snail slime streak, and that was in December. It just didn't come out. I'm guessing that can go through customs. Yes.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah, so she was commenting that the snail slime actually kind of helps with the face bugging then, if it's that stickiness.
Yeah, it like sticks. So I picked a small snail just because I thought like the big ones would be too heavy to actually like sufficiently stick onto your face. But I was surprised because you could feel like all of its muscles moving, and it kind of just like clamped down.
Oh wow!
I know. So if I find a big one again soon, I'll probably just attempt to shove a giant gastropod on my face.
Yeah, I mean you definitely like.
They are not.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
They're not the ones that people think are invasive. These are a native snail here. There are invasive ones. They're further down the elevation gradient, and they're the Africanized land snails, and those do carry diseases, so don't face bug those. But The big, nice, pretty orange ones here are fine.
Yeah, that's good to know because that's something that like you have to keep track of with so many different insects and stuff. Like you easily could be coming across something that could be potentially dangerous. So you really need to know what it is that you're putting on your face before you go ahead and just willy-nilly just throw it right onto your face.
Yeah. So one I did that I got a lot of people were surprised about was the wheel bug, and that one, like, wheel bugs are a group of hemipterans, and hemipterans have a beak, and they stab their prey, and they like kind of spit digestive enzymes into their prey to help break it down. They slurp it up. So they have a pretty powerful venom. Like they have a pretty powerful bite, and these wheel bugs are like about that big, so they're big insects. So when I put that on my face, a lot of people are like, "Oh wow, you're really brave. Like that would have hurt a ton," and it would have hurt a ton. But you can kind of tell when they're angry. Like I just gently scooped it onto my hand and then just like put my hand up to my face and just kind of like nudged it on, and it was fine. It was like it was relaxed. It had its feet out. It was just like walking around. When the ones here at least, when they start to get threatened, they like stop and they back up and they put their legs up in the air. And that's kind of when you can tell that they're agitated. So it wasn't like just because I knew its behavior and I have like been around them for a year and a half now and kind of know where to find them. So I felt pretty safe doing that, even though it is a venomous insect.
So just everyone out there in Periscope land right now, we're talking with Nancy Miorelli. She's currently live from Ecuador, in the middle of a jungle, as you guys can all see. So any questions that you have for us, make sure that you send them in. I know that there was a couple coming in that I didn't quite catch. I believe there was one about what do you actually call a insect scientist? Like what's the official term for insect scientist?
The official term is entomologist, and it comes from the Greek entomo, which is like segmented, which was the word that they used for insects, or part of the word that they used for insects. So I'm a person that studies segmented things, which is not, there are lots of things that are segmented that are not insects, but that's where the word entomologist comes from.
Yeah, I knew the word entomologist, but I never actually realized like that was the reasoning behind it, was segmented things. So can say I've learned something today.
Yes.
So yeah, if we don't get to your question, feel free to repeat it and send it in if we've missed it, or if we don't get to it before the end of the broadcast, feel free to tweet it to us afterwards. But yeah, keep sending your questions in, so that way, because I believe we both love all these questions. So anything that we can do to help you guys get more engaged, we're all for. So your research that you did while you're out there, like what was your favorite part of your research that you did?
So when I was at the University of Georgia?
Yeah.
Or just while I'm out here?
Oh, so, both. Like, why don't you talk a little bit about both? Like, because I always like hearing, like, what people's favorite things are when it comes to their research.
Yeah. I ended up on an integrated pest management project because that was what there was funding for. I didn't like it that much, but I did a little bit with it on my own, where I made lesson plans for kids, which you can actually find on our blog called Ask an Entomologist, which I run with my friend Joe Ballinger. We have a whole section of lesson plans that I did for my master's that are set to all of the standards, and there's an elementary, middle, and high school one. So I took those, and the idea of pest management, especially integrated pest management, is understanding the organism's biology and then using measures to counteract that biology. So typically with cockroaches, right, they're looking for food at night. So if you just throw your trash away or you keep food closed in Tupperwares, like, you can significantly reduce your cockroach problems just by changing your habitat and the habitat that the cockroaches are staying in, and by changing your behavior. And so the lesson plans I created were for kids and high school students, depending on where on the gradient, to kind of recognize good insects from bad insects, insects that are actually beneficial, which may be like spiders or wasps, which we tend to think of negatively, but are actually helpful for dealing with pests. Um, and looking at environments, looking at habitats, both kind of like outside where you would expect to think about habitats, but also to think about your classroom as an ecosystem. Because like we don't really think about ecosystems that way, but an office building is an ecosystem for cockroaches, and they need to find food, and they need to find water, and they need to find mates, and they need to find space, and so if you give them those things, they can live there. That makes that area an ecosystem. So trying to think of not just ecosystems as this concept that's outside, but this concept that, you know, any livable space could be an ecosystem, could be a habitat, and then modifying those habitats to reduce pests. And that was my favorite part of that research, was kind of really making that digestible for kids and teachers.
Yeah, I really like that idea of realizing, you know, ecosystems for animals aren't just, say, the middle of the jungle out there. Planet
Right.
Earth, what was really nice with their Planet Earth 2, their very last episode, they actually covered animals that live in cities. And I think that's something that's so not covered a lot of times when it comes to our outreach of when we're talking to people about animals, because animals do live in cities, and we do have to see like how they interact with those cities. So.
Mm-hmm. Like, think about sparrows that are living in little crevices on brick buildings. Like, you know, it doesn't matter if it was a cliff, a tree, or a brick building. Like, that space suited their needs, so they lived there.
Great. Yeah, it's, you know, there's so many animals that seem that, you know, they are adapting to our cities, and, you know, so it's neat to be able to study them in those locations, also in their more pristine habitat you would think that you're going to find them in.
There's a really interesting example of this with crickets and katydids and grasshoppers that are living on the side of roads. The frequencies at which they are singing has notably changed as traffic has increased. So they're competing with the road noise. So how are they competing with the road noise? Well, they're changing the frequency of their songs. And so you can actually see that in real time changing now.
Wow. Yeah, that would be interesting. I always like seeing those studies like that out and about. So we're starting to close up on our time frame here. So any last questions that anyone has for Nancy about insects, life in the jungle, things about Facebook, send them in now, because we're going to be wrapping up here shortly. So while we wait for those last questions, I'll ask you my last question. Do you have like a favorite like fieldwork fail story, like, you know, where just something just kind of went wrong?
Yes. This is, I think, the story of how I really got into entomology. So I was studying birds. I was studying a prairie warbler in the Albany Pine Bush Reserve, and we were looking at nesting, edge effects on nesting. And the prairie warbler is a tiny bird. It is like 8 grams. It's like this big, which means it weighs about as much as 8 paper clips. It's tiny. So you're trying to find this tiny little bird in basically your grandmother's overgrown vegetable patch for 80 hectares. And there were a bunch of problems with this. One is that reserve, well, they built the city and then realized that ecosystem was kind of important. So then the reserve has been buying back like city blocks, like ripping up the pavement and putting the right dirt and the right plants back in. So everything is on these 80 to 120 hectare grids. And so when I first got there, my boss was like, "Do you hear this soft chipping between these birds that you can't see?" And I was like, "No, I hear trucks." So then eventually I got better at it, and then realized that the birds are just smarter than me. So I like follow these males that have bugs in their mouth, and then the male would just like hop around for like 10 minutes and then look at me and swallow the bug and fly away. And I was like, I'm done with this. Like, I'm going to study, there's a dragonfly survey happening, and I'm going to go on this dragonfly survey. So I asked my boss, and he was like, "All right, let's go look for dragonflies. You need waders. We don't have any your size, so you have to borrow Neil." And Neil is like a 6'5" man. And as you can imagine, being my 5'6" self, I did not fit very well into his waders. But that was not going to stop me, so I got into his waders, and we're like literally walking through the swamp, but because the boots are so big on me, the pressure from the water and the mud like press the boot and my foot like comes out, so I get stuck all the time. So my other boss, Jason, has to like literally like pick me up and like pull me out of the mud. So we finally find this one dragonfly. He's like, Nancy, that's a mosaic darner. We need to capture it because you can only identify species when it's captured. It has really specific patterns on it. Go get it. So it like flies past me. I have my net ready. I literally like jump for it. The mud sinks around my boot. I literally face plant into the swamp. Like I was like, I have wrecked its flight pattern. So my boss Jason actually manages to catch it, and then he like pulls me out of the swamp like by my back. He's like, the waiters like completely filled up with water. Like he had to like carry me to the shore and like jump out. We had to jump out the water, and I was like, I'm going home. Like this was cool, but I'm done for the day. So.
Yeah, one of my favorite photos that I have from my field work, because all my stuff is in wetlands, was a picture of my waders in the parking lot, and they're like inside out, and all you could see is these wet footprints leading away from my waders because I had soaked my waders that well.
Yep. Yeah. So face planting into a swamp is how I got into entomology.
Yeah, or as one of our viewers said, #face mud, which I like that.
Face mud. Yes, face mud. So part of Real Scientists, we did like put your science on your face. So for people who didn't study bugs, and that was hilarious because it really showed the diversity of what people were studying. Like somebody was like, I don't think face caribou is safe. And someone was like, I work with high voltage electricity. And someone else was like, yeah, I work with sperm and human blood. And I was and so it was like all the things that you couldn't like put on your face, and just all the comments we were getting in from that were so funny. Yeah, and so a lot of microbiologists got in on it, but they all have like little micro plushes of things that they study, so they just like put that on their head, little like giant germ plushies. And so yeah, so it was really fun. Yeah, so face mud would definitely qualify as put your science on your face.
Yeah, yeah, all those soil scientists could definitely have fun with that, and same with anyone who's ever worked out in a wetland, because I could tell you those particular muds, they're quite, I don't know how to appropriately say this, quite lovely to the senses.
Yeah, right.
So we're gonna wind things up here, so I just want to say thank you to Nancy for being on. It was great having you. Anytime you want to come back and show off some more bugs, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. It was super fun.
And if you want to be able to get a hold of Nancy afterwards, if you've got more questions, if you're watching this on a replay, or all of a sudden thinking of a question at the very last moment here, get a hold of her at SciBugs on Twitter. If you want to get a hold of me, tweet me either at the broadcast at Scicomm Monday, or you can tweet me at my personal handle at Wildlife BioGal. And a reminder that next week we're going to have Carly Robillard on, and her Twitter handle is @ConsiderAHat. And so we'll be talking some more Scicomm with her. And then for all the folks that were playing along with the Name That Frog thing on both Twitter and Instagram today, promise I'd let you guys know what those species were. So the one that was from Twitter, the video is of a western chorus frog. And you can see that little guy right here. Tiny little guys, but with very loud voices. Not quite as loud as a cicada, but man, do they make a loud noise. And then our other one from Instagram was the wood frog, which actually was a little hard to tell because its traditional robber's mask that they're known for was a little hidden in this photo. So with that, I hope you guys have a great rest of your Monday. Make sure that you go out, explore, do some science, have some fun, and hopefully we will see you at the next broadcast.
Bye.